The courtroom was completely silent. You could almost feel the weight of the moment hanging in the air. Every pause, every sentence, every argument carried meaning. Nothing said in that room was small. This was not just another court case. This was not only about Julius Malema as a person. It was about the future of his political career and what kind of message this outcome would send. The question of guilt had already been settled. That part was over. Now the only thing that mattered was what would happen next. What kind of punishment would he face? The decision about to be made would shape everything. At this point, it was no longer just legal. It was about survival in every sense of the word. Political survival, personal survival, and symbolic survival. On Friday, something major unfolded at the East London Regional Court. A new figure stepped into the spotlight in the case involving the economic freedom fighters leader. This person did not come with dramatic speeches or emotional political slogans. There was no performance. No grandstanding. Instead, she spoke calmly, carefully, and with precision. Her name is Jessie Thompson. She is a seasoned worker in the legal system and a highly experienced lawyer. And now, she has taken on one of the most critical roles in this entire story. Jessie Thompson is the person fighting to keep Julius Malema out of prison. She is now the one trying to protect his future. The EFF leader is facing serious trouble, and Thompson has placed herself directly in the middle of it. She stood in court and explained why Malema's sentence should be reduced. Her argument was structured and deliberate. She acknowledged that Malema's actions were serious and could not be ignored. But she also insisted that sending him to prison would not be fair or necessary. Thompson made her position very clear. In her view, Malema should not go to jail. Instead, she proposed a suspended fine. A financial punishment that reflects the seriousness of the crime, but without locking him behind bars. The fine would only remain suspended if Malema followed the law and behaved himself going forward. This meant Malema would still be punished. He would still be held accountable. But he would not be imprisoned. He would not lose his freedom. Thompson argued that this approach strikes a balance. It delivers consequences without destroying his life. According to her, real accountability does not always mean prison. Sometimes it means responsibility, restriction, and constant awareness that you are being watched. But Thompson did not stop at a fine. She went further. She suggested additional safety measures to prevent anything like this from happening again. One of her key proposals was that Malema should be temporarily banned from applying for a firearm license. This, she argued, would act as a constant reminder that his actions have consequences. That he is under scrutiny. That any future mistake would carry even heavier penalties. Thompson believed this restriction would reduce the risk of repeat behavior and serve as a warning not just to Malema, but to others watching this case unfold. She also made another symbolic suggestion. Malema should be required to donate money to Gun-Free South Africa. A gesture meant to show responsibility, acknowledgement, and public accountability. Not just a punishment behind closed doors, but a visible act that reflects the seriousness of what he had done and the broader issue it represents. This is an organization that works to prevent people from using guns to harm others in South Africa. The logic behind this proposal is simple but powerful. If a crime involves a firearm, then part of the punishment should directly support efforts to reduce gun violence, not just punish the individual who committed the act. Gun-Free South Africa exists to make the country safer by lowering the number of gun-related incidents. The goal is not revenge, but prevention. As Thompson presented her arguments, she was reading from the pre-sentencing report. Malema sat quietly in the dock, listening as his entire life was being examined in public. The court discussed his background, his character, and the kind of person he is. They also looked closely at what this case could mean for his political future. All of this was being weighed to find a balance between enforcing the law and allowing space for personal reform. Malema is facing 5 criminal charges. All of them stem from a single incident that took place in 2018, during the Economic Freedom Fighters' birthday celebration in Duncan Village. That one event has now become the foundation of everything he is dealing with today. The incident has been widely discussed in both the media and the courtroom. During that celebration, a video was recorded showing Malema firing a gun into the air while supporters surrounded him, cheering, dressed in red berets, filled with excitement. At the time, the scene looked dramatic, even symbolic, almost like a revolutionary moment. But now, that same footage is being used as key evidence in a serious criminal case. Thompson openly acknowledged that the convictions are serious. She did not try to downplay them. But she raised what she believes is a crucial point. A significant amount of time passed between the incident and the conviction. And in sentencing, time matters. She explained to the court that long delays make it harder to justify extremely harsh punishment, especially if the person has stayed out of trouble during that period. Thompson emphasized that Malema has not committed any further crimes since 2018. For several years, despite being constantly in the public eye and involved in intense political battles, he has not repeated the behavior that led him to court. In her view, this is not a small detail. It is evidence of change, or at least restraint. She argued that this should be considered as a positive factor when deciding his sentence. She also addressed a sensitive issue, Malema's continued claim of innocence. Normally, when someone maintains their innocence after being convicted, courts see that as a risk factor. It can suggest a lack of remorse and a higher chance of reoffending. But Thompson asked the magistrate to look at this situation differently. She said Malema understands one critical reality. Being found guilty damages his credibility as a political leader who claims to stand for law and order. His reputation is already suffering. According to Thompson, Malema's claim of innocence is not about denial for the sake of denial. It reflects how he sees himself and his actions. She argued that if he truly understands the consequences of what happened and how it has affected his life and image, then he is far less likely to repeat anything similar in the future. In her view, awareness, accountability, and public consequences can sometimes be more powerful than prison walls. This understanding alone, she said, already makes a real difference. In Thompson's view, it lowers the chances that he will ever repeat the same kind of behavior. The fact that he understands the consequences means he is far less likely to cross that line again. One of the more interesting points Thompson raised in court was about Malema's political identity. She described him as a revolutionary figure, someone who naturally challenges rules, questions authority, and pushes against systems that already exist. She was not trying to justify his actions or make excuses. She was trying to provide context. According to Thompson, Malema's political style is built on confrontation. He provokes. He disrupts. He refuses to be comfortable or quiet. That kind of personality, she argued, will always generate controversy and will always attract attention from law enforcement. She made an important distinction. Being politically loud or controversial does not automatically make someone a criminal. A person can say things that upset people, divide opinions, or even shock the public, and still be within the law. The police only step in when the law is actually broken. Activism, even aggressive activism, is not a crime by itself. It becomes a legal matter only when actions cross into illegal territory. Thompson then shifted back to the charges themselves. She reminded the court that all 5 convictions came from a single incident. Not a pattern of repeated behavior. Not multiple events over time. Just one moment that spiraled into a major legal case. She also pointed out that the video evidence shows Malema did not personally load the gun with ammunition. In her view, This detail matters when assessing responsibility and intent. She argued that the court should look at all 5 charges together, as one connected event, instead of stacking them individually in a way that exaggerates the seriousness of the punishment. Treating them separately could create an impression of ongoing criminal behavior, when in reality it was one incident with multiple legal consequences. A single story, not a lifetime pattern. From there, Thompson moved away from the case and focused on Malema as a human being. She spoke about his childhood and how he was raised with strong family values. Family, she said, has always played a central role in his life. Even now, they remain close and continue to support him during difficult moments. She presented Malema as someone who has faced hardship but never allowed it to destroy him. She described him as mentally strong, emotionally resilient, and capable of thinking clearly under pressure. These were not qualities she invented for sympathy. She argued that these traits are visible in his journey from a difficult background to becoming the leader of a major political party. Rising to that level, she said, requires discipline, endurance, and determination. The same qualities that helped him succeed in politics can help him take responsibility and grow from this situation. Thompson reminded the court that Malema is 44 years old and this is his first criminal conviction. The incident happened when he was 37. For 5 years after that, he complied with the law. He cooperated with authorities. He did not run away. He did not hide. He did not challenge the legitimacy of the court. She concluded by saying that punishment is not only about prison. Malema has already suffered in other ways. His reputation has been damaged. His name has been publicly associated with a crime. He has lived for years under uncertainty, not knowing what would happen to his future. That kind of psychological pressure, she argued, is also a form of punishment. A slow, constant weight that affects a person's life every day. Pain, she told the court, is not only about handcuffs and prison cells. Pain takes many forms. It is not always something visible. It can be emotional, psychological, or social. It can be the pain of losing people, the pain of being judged by society, or the pain of carrying a permanent stain on your reputation. Pain can be silent, internal, and deeply personal. Thompson wanted the court to understand that punishment does not always have to be physical to be real. When she looked at the full picture, she said all the evidence pointed to one conclusion. Malema is unlikely to repeat this kind of behavior. She was confident about that. In her view, helping Malema learn from what happened and guiding him toward better conduct would benefit society far more than locking him up in a prison cell. But the state is not backing down. After Thompson finished her argument, State Prosecutor Joel Caesar stood up to cross-examine her. This made it clear that the prosecution does not agree with being lenient. For the state, this case is not only about Julius Malema. It is about sending a message. South Africa is facing a serious crisis with gun violence. People are shot and killed every day. Armed robberies, cash-in-transit heists, and illegal firearms are widespread in many communities. The state wants to show that this culture of violence will not be tolerated. That is why they are treating this case as more than just an individual mistake. From the state's perspective, when a powerful political leader fires a gun in public, the punishment must be real and meaningful. Not symbolic. Not soft. They believe a figure with influence must face stronger consequences than an ordinary citizen, because their actions shape public behavior. A simple fine or warning, in their view, is not enough. They argue that the punishment must be serious enough to make others think twice before doing the same thing. The court now stands at a turning point. If the magistrate chooses one path, Malema could be sent to prison. That would mean the end of his role in parliament. It would also send shockwaves through the economic freedom fighters and possibly destabilize the party's leadership. The political landscape would shift overnight. If the court chooses the alternative path, Malema would receive a suspended sentence. He would pay fines, accept restrictions, and follow strict conditions. He would still be punished, but he would remain free and politically active. He would also be expected to repair the damage caused by his actions. The decision before the court goes far beyond one man. For the EFF, this is about survival and leadership. For Julius Malema, it is about legacy. Will he be remembered as a reckless revolutionary who crossed a line, or as a leader who faced the law and continued fighting for his ideals? And for South Africa, an even bigger question remains. Can justice truly balance accountability with context when the person on trial is one of the loudest and most influential voices in the country? As the cross-examination continues, one thing is already clear. This case is no longer just about Julius Malema. It is about the thin, fragile line between power and punishment.